Good afternoon. Okay, that's better. All right, I'm in the right place. Again, I want to welcome you all. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Gerald Moore, and I am the branch manager here at the Dorchester Road branch of the Charleston County Public Library System. And I add all of that because we have a Dorchester County library, and me and my staff almost every day we get calls, we get people that show up because they have built a North Charleston branch, and they're always confusing us. I've had repairmen come up and say, well, we're here to fix, and we're like, we're good, you know. Well, I got a work order right here, and I'm like, no, you mean the North Charleston branch of the Dorchester County. So thank you all for coming today. We are definitely excited. This is our latest edition of our programming with authors called Prose and Pages. And today we're discussing contemporary fiction over coffee. I'm going to introduce our special guest. I'm going to start with our guest moderator, who I know is no stranger to you all that are Charleston natives. But we have with us Miss Tessa Spencer. And Tessa, you'll have to tell me if this is updated because I got this from the website.
Okay.
It says 33-year media personality. Do I need to add some years?
35.
35, okay.
Celebrated 35 this year.
Very good. So her career includes stops in the Carolinas, Rhode Island, and Tennessee, where she secured a spot with the NFL's Tennessee Titans cheerleading team. She has earned numerous industry recognitions for her broadcast excellence and has been honored with a certificate of recognition from the Office of the Governor Henry McMaster and proclamations from the South Carolina State Senate, State House, and local government municipalities for her work in the community. She has also received a proclamation from the city of Charleston proclaiming June 21st as Tessa and Baby J Day. And I was just sharing with her that in my 28 years with Charleston County Library, I moved here 28 years. So I think I can maybe call myself a Charlestonian now. I'm from the upstate, but one of the things that I heard and caught on to early on was the morning show when you did it with Baby J. I used to enjoy that. Tessa's career has also included time served in the U.S. Army Reserves, and she served at the United States Army Hospital headquartered here in Charleston. She is a veteran of the first Gulf War. A seasoned voiceover artist, Tessa has worked on nationally syndicated productions, including Black Enterprise, Chicago's Bud Billigan Parade, the Trumpet Awards, Black College Quiz, and she is currently the narrator of the syndicated TV series Mentoring Queens and America's Black Forum, airing on the Fox Soul television network. And if you're like me, a huge fan of gospel, you know she's the longtime television announcer for the nationally syndicated Stellar Awards. All right. Currently an evening news anchor at ABC News 4, Tessa has earned 2 Emmy nominations and is a 2-time Radio Television Digital News Association of the Carolinas winner. Woo, got that out.
I think it's RDTNC or NAC or something like that.
Gotcha.
Abbreviated. Still long, but yeah.
She is also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Woo-hoo! And y'all are in the house. She also continues to work on radio weekdays as a midday radio personality with Magic 107.3. So thank you, Tessa, for saying yes. Thank you. Now, our featured author, Miss Phyllis R. Dixon, a native of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Phyllis graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. She spent over 30 years with the U.S. Treasury Department as a national bank examiner. During this time, she also owned a bookstore. She enjoyed being around books, authors, and readers, and decided to follow her original dream. I got that dream too, I'll tell you about it later, to become a writer. She is the author of the novels Intermission, Down Home Blues, 40 Acres, Taste of More, and the latest one that we're all here to talk about today, Something in the Water. She has contributed to Chicken Soup for the African American Woman's Soul, as well as newspaper and magazine articles on books and Black history. She's also a frequent speaker on related topics and financial literacy. In addition to Milwaukee, Phyllis has lived in Minneapolis, in Houston, Texas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I think that was what that is. I'm sorry. And now she lives in Memphis, Tennessee. She has 3 adult children. She also is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. When not reading, go ahead, yeah. When not reading and writing, she enjoys sports, classic movies, and chocolate. And Phyllis, we are delighted to have you here at the Dorchester Road Library. So I'm going to hand you the mic.
I want to thank everyone for being here this morning, and it really means a lot for your support for Ms. Dixon and for myself, and let's have a conversation. And as you can see, I'm making my way through the book, and I wanted to tell you, too, when I started reading it, I'm like, there's references to radio, there's references to other things. I'm like, is this loosely based on me? And then, but I said no, as I got a little deeper into it, I said no, but I could definitely relate to this. But before we get into the book, though, you've been really intentional about doing small book store tours, so to speak. And Valinda's here with Turning Page Bookshop. There we go. And why is it important for you to do this for the small bookstores?
Well, part of it, and first of all, and thank you, as she also said, to all of you for being here. I appreciate you coming on such a pretty day, being inside with no windows.
Okay.
But, well, as a former bookseller, I understand how difficult it is sometimes to bring people in. And even though that's not, your bread and butter, your bread and butter is people coming every day. But a lot of times when people come to events like this, they're like, oh, I didn't even know that store was there. Or I didn't even know, she sold books. And even like now, you can, patronize her online. So that's part of the reason. But then the other part then is, to be honest, because I'm not a John Grisham or a Victoria Christopher Murray. Right. A lot of times when I call, if I call a bigger bookstore and they're like, who are you? How many, what's your platform? How many people are you bringing? But I know that a smaller bookstore would be more accommodating. Right. So that's part of the reason also, to be quite honest.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for being transparent with that. And again, you've written how many books now?
This is the 5th novel.
The 5th novel. And when did you start writing?
Well, actually, the first book was published in 1999, which is not one of these. And it was one of those small books, maybe about like this size or a little bit bigger. And it was Let the Brother Go If was the title of it. And so that was at the time when there were books out like, you ghetto if. Yeah, okay. You're a redneck if. Yeah. So those type of books. And at the time I had the bookstore, and we were actually working with a publisher on having one of her authors come in, and I saw this book, and I said, well, I could do this. And I mentioned it to her, and she said, yeah, that sounds good. So we talked about it, we got a draft, and we did it, and she paired me with Miss Dupree, used to be on the Tom Joyner morning show. So the book came out. It was a 7,000 print run, sold out. Excellent. Okay. Yeah. So I thought, wow, okay, this is easy. Yeah. Okay. So then when I did 40 Acres, which I had been working on for a long, long time, and I said, well, I should have no problem because this is actually a real story. It's a real book. Yeah. And it didn't quite work out that way, and I sent it around to a lot of different places. And so then finally I just decided to publish it myself. Okay. So I independently published my first 2 novels. So I said all that to say I've been working on it a long time. But when I had the bookstore, one of the things that encouraged me was in meeting authors, and a lot of them still had their day jobs. A lot of them, some of them were selling books out of their trunk and all of that. So that's kind of got me thinking as well. And I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. So that was another impetus for doing the book. And my job as a bank examiner, spent a lot of time on the road.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I always say is that people that spend a lot of time in hotels, they either drink or they shop or they fool around.
Yeah.
And I just stayed in my room and wrote and read books.
Wrote and read. And, it's a big thing. And I'm going this route for a reason. There are plenty of people who can say, or we've always heard, everyone has a book in them. People have stories to tell. But there's one thing to say, I want to do it, to actually putting action behind it and doing it. Was that easy for you? An easy transition? Did you start and stop? How was that process for you for doing it?
With the first one, I pretty much started and stopped.
Okay.
And it's about the C.W. Washington family, and they are basically fighting over land over a family reunion weekend. And so my mother and I would talk about the characters like they were real. And she said, well, what is Brenda up to? And Beverly, rather. What is Beverly up to? And what is Sharia? And we would talk about them. And she said, well, when are you going to, when are you going to finish? And I, of course, I was, had a job at the time and children at home. So it was taking longer. She said, well, I know it's going to be great, but I'll probably be gone on to glory by the time you finish. So that was kind of got you going, moving a little better, moving a little faster.
Yeah.
So the first two I independently published. And there was a long break between the two. And so when I was working, so all this time I had been working on intermission, but my goal was to be traditionally published. Because, I was seeing other people do stuff, and you're not supposed to compare yourself. But I said, well, my stuff is as good as theirs. If they can get a publisher, I can too. Yeah. So I kept working on that. It was a journey. But I did finally get a traditional publisher. And so then now it's sort of like, be careful what you ask for. Because, like I said, the first two I worked on as I got ready. Well, now.
You've got deadlines.
Exactly. It's a contract. They want a book a year. So now it's kind of, this is like work now.
Yeah. Okay.
But
it's your dream.
Yeah.
But it's your dream, and you are living it.
Yes.
All right. So now let's get into Something in the Water. And what was your inspiration behind this story before we get into Billy and Cole and Dylan and how you develop their character and their storyline?
Well, I had an idea that I wanted to write about a family that was dealing with their child's addiction. And so that was one story that I had been sort of working on for a while. And I wanted it to be opioid, because we don't hear a lot about that in the Black community, but it is a problem. So that was the story that I was working on there. But then also during this time in Memphis, we had an ice storm, and I was without water for 9 days. And it was February, and so it was cold. So I toughed it out for like a day and a half, and then after that I just said, well, fooey on this, and I just went to a hotel. But while I was there, because nobody knew it was going to last that long, so by the time the ordeal was over, they had raised the room rates to like $300 a night for just a little dinky Hampton Inn. Yeah. But no, I had hotel points. So
right. Okay.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But what about people that didn't have that?
Of
so
course.
That was one of the things that got me thinking about the water. And during this same time, Jackson, Mississippi was in the news about their water. And when I was working, we traveled all over, and there were two places where we would not drink water. And one of them was Washington, D.C., and the other one was Jackson, Mississippi. So even though it was just getting in the news, and primarily it was in the news because Deion Sanders was the coach and the football team couldn't practice and all that stuff with the water. But they had water issues for decades. So that was also part of it, and so that was in the news. And then my pastor, he had been at a church in Flint, Michigan, so he had been active when all of their water things were going on too. So that kind of gave me the idea about writing something about that also. Yeah. So I just kind of smushed them together.
Right, smushed them together. All right, so let's talk. There are the three main characters. Billy is the mother in Something in the Water. Cole is the dad, and Dylan is their son, and they also have a daughter. And her name, I forgot what her name is. Do you know the daughter's name? Can you remember? You should know that. Whoops, I stumped the author of the book. And the daughter, she's there.
Shame on me. Shame on me.
It's okay. I put you on the spot with it.
She feels left out. I can't even
See,
think
there
of
you
her
go.
name.
There it is. There it is. So let's talk about the development of Billy, who I could relate to in some essence because she worked at a radio station. And I started out working for an independent radio station. That's how I met Cynthia. So we go way back to like 1993, yeah, long time. So how did you develop her character and get the knowledge of the radio and how that worked? And I'm like, this is pretty spot on. So I could fact check you on some stuff. So that was pretty good.
Well, I had a friend in Memphis, and she was a very popular radio show host. I don't know if you ever heard of Mother Wit.
Yeah. Okay.
And they had the #1 radio show, Breakfast. They called theirs the Breakfast Club. And then I guess it was like the early 2000s when everything was going towards syndication.
Yes.
And so their spot got taken over by Steve Harvey, and I think a lot of other spots on that station too.
Yeah.
So I could so that was part of, I remembered what she had gone through during that time. So I knew about the syndication part. Plus, and also my oldest son, one of his initial career goals out of many was to be a DJ.
Oh, okay.
And so he had gone to Columbia School of Broadcast and all of that as well. And he could intern all day long.
Yeah.
But he could never get a permanent slot. And that's probably because everything was going toward syndication.
Exactly. It's still kind of that way too now, sadly, with that. But Billy is sort of, I would say, headstrong in a way. I mean, she knows what she wants. And her husband, Cole, they kind of balance each other out. And how did you come up with how their relationship would look like?
I wanted it to be, I guess, one of those opposites attract type things. So he was from the South. He met her at college in California. She was native from California. And so they dated and got married. And so he was attracted to her activism and, the bright lights of the city, all of that was really fascinating to him. He's from a small town in Texas. So I just kind of wanted it to be one of those opposites attract type relationships.
And their son Dylan, an all-star athlete, swimmer, popular in school, but he had a hidden addiction, which started out from an injury, of course. So when you bring the family dynamic all together in the way, and I love the way that it's written, because when I read books, for me, I don't know if anyone else, when you read a book, for me it plays out in my head like a movie, right? And you can actually, you give your characters a face and, and what they look like. And that's usually how you can tell if it's very well written, when you can do that and extract that from just reading words on a page. So I already had, to me, what they looked like through the way that you describe them and everything like that. But the way that you had them kind of orbit around each other in the conversations that in the encounters that they would have, it was very well written.
Well,
Not that you need my approval for that, but it did help, with the storytelling of that. So when you look at it, this is actually could be an actual real family, in real life, really.
Right. Oh, I agree. And of course, that's the goal, to make it relatable, and also, especially like with Dylan, sometimes when we see things on television and people that have addictions and problems, I wanted to show, they don't start out that way. And so it was a gradual type thing. How did this happen to him? He was a good kid, a good student, athlete. He had an injury, got prescribed painkillers, and it got out of control. And that's the story for a lot of people. So that was one of the things I wanted to show, that it, like you just said, just show them as real people and how they get from A to B.
Yeah, and then going through the child disappearing and, being gone, from home, and sometimes, parents, and I can use my own personal experience, not with opioid addiction, but, having two kids, which leads me into a next question, who are vastly, a coin, they're complete opposite, and having to balance that and their own specific needs, and then without alienating another child because you're paying more attention to another child that has a specific issue, how you learn to balance that. So did you get that from your own experience with having 3 kids and they all have different personalities, or what did you use to sort of do that dynamic between the 2 siblings?
Yeah, I would say from my own experience, I'm actually an only child. So I thought, if you had siblings, you play when you want to play. Yeah. And when you don't want to play, I go over here and you go over there and we leave each other alone. Yeah. So when my children, I just didn't understand this, fighting and arguing and bickering and taking stuff. And I was like, we had 2-3 bedrooms. Just
go somewhere.
Yeah. So that was part of it also. And like you said, and even and I have 3, and they are so different.
Wow. So and then to have 3 that have 3 different personalities. Is there one, is it the middle child that kind of balances is anyone else a middle child? You're a middle child? Okay. How are you guys different? Middle. Is it true what they say about middle kids? It is? Everybody. Okay. She said, what do they say about that? You're not the oldest and then you're not the youngest. You're kind of stuck in the middle, so is that sort of like how it was?
Well, I shouldn't say
kids?
That, but my middle child I have 2 sons and a daughter, and the daughter's in the middle. And she's probably the one most likely to watch this video.
Okay.
She's interested in books and all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's very, take charge.
Okay.
I'll put it like that.
Okay, got you. That female energy, that's what we do, sometimes. But with all of that, with the family dynamic, and of course the strain now being put at some point, for those of you who may not have gotten that far, or you haven't read the book and you've bought it, you've gotten that far. You're finished with it? Oh, okay. And we'll talk with you when we get to the Q&A section. What is you also talk about having problems in a marriage or outside things causing problems in a marriage. I mean, this book is very thorough. You covered pretty much all the bases and anything that could happen as a result of something else, and then also being blindsided by something else. And why did you choose to throw in the beginning, talking about the divorce and then still it causing problems later on in the story, them going back to that?
Well, again, just to make it more realistic, that they weren't just a happy-go-lucky couple. They had issues. Everybody has issues. But they weren't, they didn't hate each other. So it's just one of those, peaks and valleys, and valleys. And so that was what I tried to show.
Okay. Now, also, the community involvement, because the title of the book, Something in the Water, was it important for you to put that in there to spur your readers to do something in their community about issues that come up, or what was the importance of doing that? What do you think the message would be?
Well, quite honestly, I was not an environmental or water nerd before I had started this book. But in doing the research, I did, dig a little deeper into our water issues, and not just Memphis, but everywhere. And so one of the things I started doing was going to our water board meetings. And one of the things that was surprising, but it shouldn't be, like a lot of things that impact us but are kind of boring, there's 8 people there. And, and the people, they make the decisions for hundreds of thousands of people, but people don't show up to the meetings unless it's some kind of messy stuff going on. So that was one thing that kind of surprised me and disappointed me, but I shouldn't have been, because I wasn't going to the meetings either.
Right. Yeah.
So I started paying attention to that. Yeah. And then also we had an issue in Memphis a few years ago where a pipeline was going to be built through the southwestern part of town, which is predominantly black, predominantly lower income. And it was a grassroots effort to defeat that, to overcome it, and it got a lot of attention. Danny Glover came there, Jane Fonda, Al Gore. It got a lot of attention, and so they voted it down. Yeah, they defeated it. And one of the things that was in the notes from when they were deciding this was that this neighborhood was the path of least resistance. And so that just kind of stuck with me also. So that was part of it. And so now, fast forward now, we have an issue with a supercomputer and a certain very, very, very rich individual, and who shall remain nameless.
Nameless, yes.
But there's a lot of community involvement with that, because it's kind of like, well, it's already approved, and the people in the city didn't even know anything about it. And so it's kind of the same thing. So that was also what I wanted to show also, is that we need to pay more attention. And one of the quotes that I really liked is Alice Walker. And she said, the quickest way to let me get it right. The quickest way to make people feel they are power, the quickest way for people to lose their power is for them to feel they don't have any. And so that's kind of what was happening in the town that they moved to, Calderville. And then in a way that's happening, in our area, regular lives as we speak. A lot of the things that are going on, there's so much, and a lot of it gets headline. But the EPA is one that, you probably don't hear too much about and don't pay much attention to. But the water protections are really being rolled back. And so that's something that probably, maybe won't show up this year or, a few months from now. But a lot of times those things are hard to undo. And so that's also part of the background for the kind of getting a little bit more energized about it.
Yeah. And one of the other characters, Monroe. Monroe is Cole's brother, and he lives in Calderville, right? And he has means. Yes. He's a person of means. And to Monroe, money is the ultimate equalizer. Biblically, there's a scripture, 1 Timothy 6:10, that states that the love of money is the root of all evil. Would you say that there are some truths to both statements, and the storyline plays out in Something in the Water?
Yes. Because money is important. You have to have money, but you got to have good sense and good intentions, and not be greedy. Yeah. And so, unfortunately, that's what happens in the story, and that's what happens a lot of times, in real life. And so many times, politicians, I think they start out with good intentions, and then once they get there and they see, well, everybody else is getting a little bit on the side, so I'm going to get a little bit on the side. I can still advocate for my people or my district and still put a little bit of money in my pocket. Everybody else is doing it. And so I think that's what happens, and then people end up staying too long and all of that. So I think, like with Monroe, because he's also doing good things, he figures, it takes money to be in those places.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for answering that the best way that you could with that. And I agree. We've got to be good stewards with it and resist temptation. Right? Yes? We agree? Okay. Something in the Water has a main plot and a couple of subplots. And when you wrote this novel, and in your process of writing it, did you know how you were going to bring it all together and how it would end? Do you already have that in mind, or you just kind of write yourself into a peak, or then you figure out, okay, where do I go from here? How did that work with this?
Well, I had the end in mind, and I knew the beginning that they were coming from California to Texas. So then I just had to come up with scenarios and different things to get them there.
Oh, so you come up with the ending.
Yeah, I already knew the ending.
You already knew the ending before you wrote the book. Huh. Well, and then you just have to, and from someone who, I've got many journals, and I've been writing a book now for about 20 years. And they're all in different places, thumb drives, different little pieces, and thinking about it in the shower, like, oh, I think I'll write that. That'll be something to write. Never write it down, and here we are, 20 some odd years later. But has that always been for all of your books? The ending, but then you just have to, and you know how it's going to start, but then you fill it in. Is that that's how you approach all?
Yeah, I always have the end. Somebody famous said that, begin with the end in mind. So I know what the ending is going to be and what the point of the book is. And like I said, just have to get there. Now, sometimes I might start out with 3 characters and then change to 2, or change, the location or something like that. But I always know the ending.
And how do you come up with the names
Of the
characters?
Well, I just keep a long list of names that I like and names to fit, and I just pick names. My first book, 40 Acres, one of the things I did, and again, because I was publishing it myself, so you learn things along the way. And so one of the things I did, which I thought was cute, because they were related, so their names started with C. So I had Carl, Carolyn, Cecilia, and somebody else, Charles, I think. Well, later on, the editors told me, no, you don't do that because, sometimes people skip or whatever, and so you don't let them, you want to vary the name starts. So like I say, I didn't know that, but I just picked those names because I liked them. And one of the characters in there is named Carl. I have a cousin that's Carl. And Carl is a crackhead in the story.
Oh, I was about to say, you were about to say your cousin Carl's a crackhead. But I was like, that's okay. No,
that's
okay.
what he said to me. He said, why did Carl have to be the
crackhead? Yeah.
But I was just looking for names that started with C.
Yeah.
So after that, I said, okay, I'm not going to use anybody's names that I know. So then I just started keeping a list of names.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just pull from there.
Okay. And how is this book different in the other books that you've written? Because once I'm finished with this one, I'm going to read Intermission, which I think in my head, because I've been in radio for so long, that I can deduce who I think it could be about. But how is this book different from any of the other books that you've written? How does it stand out?
I would say what's different about it is that just because, like I say, I really handed it in, the publishing industry takes a long time, gestation period. So actually it was finished in 2023.
Okay.
And so, of course, at that time, we didn't know we were going to have all this stuff going on with EPA and we knew climate change, but climate change just continues to exacerbate and get worse. But then, like I say, and even the things that are going on in Memphis now with the protests about the supercomputer and all of that. So I didn't know all of that when I wrote the book. So I think this is the first book that I've written that has been kind of timely as far as newsworthy.
Gotcha.
But like I said, I didn't write it. At the time, that wasn't my plan. That I think just goes to divine intervention and the man upstairs.
Yeah.
But so that would be the one thing I would say. Otherwise, all of my books, I think other maybe than Intermission, are about families.
Okay.
So, and sometimes again, I say because I'm an only child.
I was just going to say why. Yeah, why is that? That's kind of how
why.
it manifests itself. Yeah.
And my father died when I was young, so sometimes I think maybe I just made up all these people. It was just me and my mother, so I just made up all these big families.
Okay.
But I would say that would be the most thing about it, is that it's more topical.
More topical. And as we get ready to close, and we'll begin our Q&A section, and I hope many of you have questions or something, if not about something in the water, but just about Ms. Dixon's career and the writing process. What would you say to everyone that's here this afternoon about preserving books and institutions that preserve history? Because that's been kind of under attack now, and you see it going away, by books being taken out of libraries. What can we do as people who are readers, and when I can find the time, I'm getting back into it now, to really galvanize support from the community for people to support local businesses, bookstores like Turning Page Bookshop, and others. What is some advice that you can give us that we can do?
Well, that's the main thing, is to support. And I know it's easy to use Amazon, because I use them too. You just press some buttons and it's at your door. But spread your money around. You can still support Turning Page and also, buy something from Amazon if you must. But that's the main thing, is to support. Because again, the Barnes, and nothing against Barnes & Noble, because I go there too, but the Barnes & Nobles of the world, they are going to have people in that draw big crowds. But a lot of times the people that draw big crowds are not necessarily speaking truth to power. And so the ones that have been speaking truth to power are the ones who are now on the banned book list. So if we don't have our own, and I shouldn't say our, I mean just independent, I'll put it like, if they're not independent bookstores, then there's a certain group that is going to be deciding what we all read. And the publishers, they want to sell books, but they don't really care, what it's about. It could be a pencil as far as they're concerned. They're just trying to sell a product and make money. So when the urban literature was so popular, when the thug's wife, the thug's girlfriend, okay, this book sold a lot, okay, let's do the thug's mama, the thug's daughter, the thug's baby mama. We're going to do all these books. And not because we're necessarily trying to uplift the community. And nothing wrong with reading that. I'm just saying that their goal is to make $1. And most of the time, the large publishing companies are not really even standalone entities. They're part of a bigger conglomerate that sells a whole bunch of stuff. And the book division is just one of several. So for us that like to read, books are very important, but for them, like I say, it's just a product. It could be a pencil. And then I just read a statistic that was kind of sad. I think it said like 60% maybe. It might have been a higher percentage of that, of Americans have not read a book, like in the last year.
Oh, in the last year.
Yeah, people
okay, I know, because you said ever, because my first thought was, ever? Never? 67% have not read a book in the past year. I'm glad I'm not in that percentage. I picked up a book. I've read it. Yeah. That's staggering.
Yeah, and so that's sad. So some of the things that you hear and that are put out in the news and whatever, and you think, well, how could anybody believe that? But, if you just go into the internet and you're not reading a book and you're not fact-checking like you said, well, then some of the things that are said you think is true.
Right.
So that's the one thing I think is, like I say, support independent bookstores, and then also support a love of reading in the young people in your life. I know I give boring gifts because I give books to my grandchildren. But they need they need to pick up a book and then see their parents reading and all that. We just really have to be intentional about that, because we know that their attention spans are shorter, and so we just got to do it. We just got to be intentional about it. I guess that's all I could say.
All right. So now that you're under contract and you got to work on deadlines, what are you working on? Working on now? What's next for you, if you can, without giving it away? Are you working on something currently?
I am. That's why I couldn't think of the daughter's name.
Oh, okay. You get it confused. All these other characters are in your head. Yeah.
But I am. Yeah. And what can I say about it? It's 2 sisters. So again, it's family.
Okay.
And it's sort of related to Elvis Presley.
Oh, okay. Memphis, all right. I've been to Memphis. Drove by Graceland, and actually we were there during the week because I was do some work with St. Jude.
Okay.
And we were in town, and that was right around after Lisa had passed away.
Oh.
Yeah, and I grew up an Elvis Presley fan when I was a little girl. My mom gave me a book. His autobiography, or and so we're looking forward to that one. You don't have a title yet. And you couldn't give it away right now anyway, right?
So far, because it might change, it's Notes from Beale Street.
Oh, I like that. Okay, Notes from Beale Street. Does it have any mystery to it?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay, I picked up a mystery vibe in there, a little something like a. Okay, y'all did too? Yeah, a little bit. Okay, look at me trying to read a writer. All right, well, Phyllis, thank you so much. This was a pleasure to be able to sit next to you and share space and talk to you about it.